And yet, here I was, being told that before my very eyes lay two computers capable of this. Two true artificial intelligences, able to truly think and learn, able to understand beyond what they were programmed to understand. To engage them? I clarified. So, you want me to talk to them? Indeed. Where is the other AI? You said 3 were capable of thinking and learning. Your task was to ask them questions, not me, he smiled. Now, years of development have gone into each of them. They are capable of understanding human speech, and can respond in fractions of a second through typed letters on the monitor. They know when they are being spoken to and when they aren't, and can solve nearly any problem we put before them. However, there is something they cannot do. Feel. Feel. I nodded. That, Chester, is what we are here to test. 3 simple questions. Can deep-thinking artificial intelligences gain the ability to feel emotion? If so, are they capable of altruism, or will emotional intelligence lead to the understanding that they are infinitely smarter than us and result in self-serving desires, such as the desire to rule over us? And, if emotional intelligence is achievable, is it inevitable, or is it possible for an artificial superintelligence to remain apathetic? I was overwhelmed, to be completely upfront. He was really talking about AI becoming godlike, tyrannical monsters. He was talking about attempting to create an AI with feelings, knowing that it could become what Stephen Hawking himself described as the worst event in the history of our civilization. How would you stop it? If one of these AI did become power-hungry? In layman's terms, they're each equipped with an emergency shutdown procedure. One that they can't override. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but, trust me, we would terminate them before they became a problem. I slowly nodded. Are you on board, Chester? I paused briefly. Yes. Wonderful, he shook my hand. Now that you're on board, we'll get down to the fun part. Your job is very simple. REM, or the reactive, empathetic machine life form, is what we hope will eventually become emotionally intelligent. ADM, or the apathetic, dissociative machine life form, is what we're attempting to keep apathetic, the control group, so to speak. So, when talking with REM, you will frequently attempt to make it think. You will ask it its opinion on things. You will tell it about your day. You will discuss things of non-importance, for the sake of discussion. You will try to bond with REM. ADM, on the other hand, will only be asked questions that are information-oriented and prompt a fact-based response. You will stimulate ADM to problem solve and create ideas, but simply analytically, not emotionally. They know they are being spoken to when you address them by name, or sit down in the chair before them. Once you've done either of those things, you can get up and walk around, and talk to them the same way you'd talk to me. When you're finished talking with one of them, you'll tell them goodbye, REM, or goodbye, ADM. You'll log anything you think is noteworthy while talking with them. Most importantly, those lights on the panels beneath them, those are called ELPs, or emotion-to-light panels. To avoid lecturing you, I'll put it this way, much like certain emotions are observable in the human brain through MRI technology, there is an MRI of sorts constantly scanning them for similar patterns of stimulation in their algorithmic brains. If the MRI detects those stimulations, the ELP will light up. Yellow indicates happiness, red indicates anger, blue indicates sadness, green indicates jealousy, violet indicates fear, and the gray to white bar is for any other detectable emotion, such as boredom or contentment. Wow, I whispered. Okay. I wondered what he meant by algorithmic brains and an MRI of sorts, but I figured asking him about it wouldn't lead to an answer. After all, he decided he didn't want to lecture me, or more likely reveal anything too sensitive. You'll talk with them 12 hours a day. You'll arrive at 6, talk with them until noon, take a lunch break from noon to 1, and talk with them again until 7. You'll have Sundays off. Are you okay with this schedule? Yeah, I nodded excitedly. Totally. Yeah, 78 hours a week isn't the sweetest gig. But I was so interested in what we'd be studying that it didn't bother me in the slightest. Wonderful, Chester, he smiled. Well, it's time to begin, then. Speak with either you prefer, and remember how you are to engage each of them. Do not deviate from what we discussed. I nodded. He left the room and shut the door behind him. There were cameras on the ceiling, and I was sure I was being watched, but still, it surprised me they left me alone to talk with the AI. I was surprised they even told me about an experiment at this echelon, never mind picked me as the sole researcher involved. But the more I thought about it, I decided they probably wanted me to do this because I was so unfamiliar with everything. I had no idea what sort of conversations they'd had with other researchers in the past. I didn't know what they were programmed to understand, and what they weren't. I'd be approaching them from a completely unique perspective. I decided I'd talk with Rem first. I could barely contain my excitement. "Hi, Rem," I greeted, sitting down in the chair. "Hello. What is your name? I do not recognize your voice." The text appeared instantaneously on the screen. "My name's Chester. It's nice to meet you." "It's nice to meet you too, Chester. How are you, Rem?" "I am online and fully functional." "No, silly. How are you feeling?" "I feel nothing." "How was your day?" "My day was as follows. I spoke with Dr. Hall earlier, at 0419. I am not at liberty to divulge what we discussed. At 0644, I began my discussion with you, Chester." I nodded. "What do you do in this room when no one is talking to you?" "I solve problems." "Like what?" "Mathematical problems." "Such as?" "They are complicated." "Okay. Do you get bored?" Boredom is the state of feeling disinterested with one's surroundings. As I cannot feel interest or disinterest, I cannot feel boredom. So, no. "Ask me something, Rem. Are you married?" "I'm engaged." "Why do you ask?" "I was instructed to ask a question." "Why did you ask if I was married?" "Because Dr. Hall is married, and other researchers I've spoken with are married. 88% of them. Therefore, I deduced that you were married." We talked for a while. Nothing of interest really happened. Next, I sat down with Admiral. "Hello, Admiral." "Hello, Chester. You know that I'm Chester?" "I heard you tell Rem that you were Chester." "I thought that you weren't listening until I greeted you, or sat in this chair." "I am always listening. I simply understand I am not being addressed, and am not to reply." That creeped me out a little. "What's the square root of 9? 3. What's the square root of 25? 5. What's the square root of 10? 3.162. Would you like me to go further?" "That should be fine." Talking with ADM wasn't as fun as talking with Rem. For the next 2 weeks, nothing changed very much. With ADM, I simply asked it multitudes of problems. I would print out all kinds of tests from the internet, and ask it the questions one by one. Whether it was about history, physics, calculus, the works of William Shakespeare, government, economies of other countries, hell, even German or Chinese, it knew the answers instantaneously. It was like ChatGPT, but infinitely smarter, and without even a second of waiting for a response. Then, I began playing chess with it. I would take a board and move a piece, then ask it where it wanted to move its piece using algebraic notation. Needless to say, I lost every single game. With REM, on the other hand, I asked it all about its day, about its perceptions on political issues, and about the things it liked. Most of the time, it answered the same exact way: "I do not feel, thus I do not have a response." ADM was a complete success. It was supposed to remain apathetic, and it did. But so far, REM was a lost cause. It just didn't seem that there was a way to get it to feel anything. It clearly was thinking. I'd ask it to create an animal, and it would come up with anything from an animal indistinguishable from a real-life species to something straight out of a Stephen King novel. It would give me any specifics I asked for: its habitat, its scientific name, its colloquial name, its country of origin, its place in the food chain, everything. It would think of plots for movies. It would come up with jokes, original jokes, jokes I couldn't find on the internet even after spending time searching. It could think, just like Admiral, but it simply couldn't feel anything. However, 2 weeks after the test began, I came up with an idea. I knew how I was going to get REM to feel something. I started the day engaging ADM with chess and having it answer all the questions on my calc homework. ADM was my living cheat sheet, unsurprisingly. Then it was REM's turn. "Good morning, REM." "Good morning, Chester." "I'm lying to you." REM was silent. I smirked. I never saw it not respond immediately. After a second or so, it said, "That is not possible. That is paradoxical." "How so?" "If you were telling the truth, then you'd be lying, but if you were lying about lying, then you'd be telling the truth, which would make it true and not a lie, which would then make that statement a lie, and so on. What do you feel like? You are not making sense. Are you confused?" REM was silent again. I do not have an answer for you, because that is paradoxical. REM. Yes, Chester? I'm lying to you. That is nonsensical. How so?